Hi everyone, MP Arnagenis here. Those of you who follow my page know that we've been doing a lot of work on the Liberal McKinsey scandal. That is the close relationship between the Liberal government and this company McKinsey that has a really dubious track record in terms of some of the things they've done both around the world but also here at home. And they've gotten over $100 million in contracts from the Trudeau government, and we've been scrutinizing the ethical track record of this company, as well as why is it that this company with clearly very close connections to the government was able to get so much in outside contracts. We're seeing significant growth in spending on the public service, but also significant growth in spending on outside consultants. And Conservatives have said we're going to fire the outside consultants and focus on core service delivery for Canadians. So for this next discussion about McKinsey, I'm very pleased to be joined by someone that, again, many of you probably know, Dr. Leslyn Lewis, prominent voice in our party on many important issues. Dr. Lewis is the Shadow Minister for Infrastructure and has been doing some work at the Transport Committee on the issue of McKinsey. So thanks for joining us for this live. Dr. Lewis, if you can maybe share about the work you've been doing on McKinsey at the Transport Committee and how it relates to your portfolio in terms of infrastructure.
Well, we have a study that is looking at the close connections between McKinsey and the infrastructure bank from its inception. So we require a certain witnesses that will have deep, intimate information about how the infrastructure bank started and the McKinsey employees and executives that really spearheaded this initiative. And so it's been we've been trying to get these witnesses to come to committee to give evidence. And unfortunately, and unprecedented, I've never ever seen, and I've spoken to other people who've been here for over decades, and they've never ever seen so many witnesses decline. It was almost as if there was some sort of effort to ensure that these witnesses just wouldn't come. And it's just very, very disconcerting, largely because these are the individuals whom taxpayers have paid, whom they were entrusted with these functions and this knowledge. And we want to know what happened, and yet we could not get them there. So then it went into what happened last week. Last week, we decided that we could not waste committee's time, so we were going to bring a motion to compel the witnesses. I gave notice prior to filing the motion to the committee chair, and I thought that was the proper thing to do. And I let the chair know and the clerk that I would be filing a motion to compel witnesses. I did so on Friday, so my motion would be brought on notice before the committee on Tuesday, which is what I did on Tuesday, brought the motion today. And unfortunately, we had the Liberals filibustering for 2 hours. 2 hours. They would not allow us to vote on the motion, to vote on the amendments. They were asking for things that they were already provided. They created a concocted argument that they didn't have a chance to submit witnesses, which is false, because every party had an equal right to submit, an equal time to submit witnesses, but they chose to not do it. And at the time, even during committee, the Bloc made an amendment and submitted witnesses that they would like to also see that didn't respond to them to be added on to our notice of motion. And so the Liberals are trying to convey to the public, in some respect, that they didn't have an opportunity to submit the names of the witnesses, which is just completely false. And so they wasted 2 hours of taxpayer resources in committee filibustering because they don't want us to be able to pass this motion, which the Bloc and the NDP support. They don't want us to be able to pass this motion, so they continue to filibuster on this issue.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So just in some of the background context, right? The Liberals created this infrastructure bank. It's been a disaster, right? It hasn't worked very well in terms of actually getting projects done. McKinsey was intimately involved in the creation of the infrastructure bank. Is that right?
Yes, Dominic Martin was the CEO of McKinsey at the time that the infrastructure bank was created. And in fact, he recommended the creation of the infrastructure bank along with an advisory committee and an advisory council. So we want to hear from these individuals to find out what special knowledge they had, what insights they had, and information. $1.43 million of contracts were awarded, and these were not public contracts. These were sole source contracts awarded from the Infrastructure Bank to McKinsey. In addition to that, we have a number of executives and CEOs from McKinsey that later just transitioned to the Infrastructure Bank.
Mm-hmm. So the process around here in terms of Parliament is we've been prosecuting this issue at the Government Operations Committee primarily. When the story initially broke, coming out of January, we had a study at the Government Operations Committee. Now, those of you who follow my page will know we've been asking tough questions to the witnesses who came. Mm-hmm. There have been, Dominic Barton came, one representative from McKinsey came, and we've done our job, which is to ask them tough questions. And this has led to, I think, more questions and more demands for information from the public. So now it seems that your committee, you're trying to deal with one important aspect of this, which we haven't really dealt with as much at OGO. OGO is the Government Operations Committee, right? We speak in acronymese around here, right? So OGO mm-hmm. is the Operations Committee. We haven't done as much on the Infrastructure Bank issue. You guys are trying to take that on at the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, right. And it seems they've got a new strategy here, right? It's instead of come answer the questions, they've just said the witnesses aren't going to show up, and if we try to summon the witnesses, then they're going to filibuster, and the Liberals are doing this filibustering to protect McKinsey. Why do you think they've decided to try to block further investigation here? Why are the Liberals filibustering to cover for McKinsey?
In fact, I don't know, because it's very concerning. Taxpayers have a right to this information, and so they have no legal right to be blocking the witnesses coming to committee and giving evidence. I don't know what they're trying to hide, but it's obvious that when you have a motion on the table to compel witnesses, and then you have the strategy of Liberals coming into committee just for the purposes of filibustering to make sure that this motion, which they know the motion is going to be passed, it's going to be passed because we have the Bloc and we have the NDP also supporting the motion. But yet their aim is to stall so that perhaps the witnesses won't be able to come. And that's very, very unfortunate, because the witnesses that we're calling, these are high-level, six-figure earning executives that were paid by Canadian taxpayers. And as Garnett said, this study is very circumspect. It is not something that has been studied before. It's on a very, very defined area of the connection between McKinsey and the Infrastructure Bank, which is not something that has been studied before, and which is a topic that we're getting so many questions on, and taxpayers deserve answers.
Well, we'll bring you further updates on this as the story unfolds, but this is the story today, which is that after we've been trying to get to the bottom of what happened at McKinsey and in this Liberal McKinsey scandal, we've requested documents. We haven't gotten all the documents we need. We haven't heard all the witnesses we need to hear from, even at the Government Operations Committee. But it seems now the Liberals have said, enough of this. We're just going to try to shut down any discussion, keep the witnesses away, and not summon them. So, final word to you.
And it's really unfortunate because, as usual, the Liberals think that Canadians are stupid. And what they do is every time you ask pertinent questions, what they say is, oh, it's a conspiracy. But let's lay out what this conspiracy is. It's essentially that we are seeking to bring witnesses who don't want to come. And so we are compelling their evidence, and taxpayers, Canadians, are assuming that the reason why they don't want to come is because they have something to hide. There's nothing conspiratorial about that. But the Liberals want you to believe that because they gaslight you. Instead of doing their job, instead of ensuring that committee is productive, they come, they filibuster, they waste taxpayers' resources, they waste taxpayers' time, and they make a mockery of the system.
All right, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you, Dr. Lewis, for joining us. We'll be bringing you more updates on what's happening with McKinsey at government operations, at transport, in the House, and other committees. And we're going to stay on top of this Liberal McKinsey scandal to work to get answers for you. Why did this company get so much in the way of taxpayers' money? What kind of work did they actually do or not do? And why are we seeing this significant growth in spending on public servants, but also on outside consultants? And what can we do to get to the bottom of all this? We'll keep bringing you these updates. Thanks again. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, MP Genuous.